At the beginning of the story, we see a notorious thief named Morris. He is arrested by the police for bank robbery and is being taken to Alcatraz, the world's most secure prison, to serve life imprisonment. Alcatraz is a prison built on a small island in the middle of the ocean. Even if a prisoner breaks out, he cannot escape because the water blocks his path. This is why this prison was considered the world's most secure prison. Only the world's top criminals were held here. But soon, this prison's reputation was about to be tarnished. Now, a notorious thief named Frank Morris, who had escaped prison several times before, had entered this prison. But this time, Morris was a little nervous because this prison was extremely secure. But Morris wasn't going to spend his entire life here. He wanted to escape from this prison as soon as possible. As soon as he entered, Morris began to think about escaping. After a thorough check from head to toe, Morris was locked in a cell. A guard came and told Morris, "Welcome to Alcatraz," and this is where the real story begins. Suddenly, a bell rang, and all the cell gates opened automatically. The officers called the prisoners out. Discipline in this prison is also very strict. Prisoners must follow rules regarding cleanliness and entering their cells on time. Everyone wears the same uniform and stands in line to eat breakfast. A prisoner named Litmus stands in front of Morris. Morris asks, "I haven't found a fork. How will I eat noodles now?" Litmus tells him, "Hey, this isn't your house. Eat what you've got, quietly." Just then, a dangerous prisoner named Wolf begins to tease Morris. Every prisoner in the prison was fed up with Wolf. He used to dictate terms to every single prisoner and has numerous rape charges against him. This prison houses some of the most dangerous prisoners. Litmus asks Morris for some food, and Morris offers him his plate. When Morris looks under the table, he realizes that Litmus isn't eating himself, but giving it to a rat. At night, a guard takes Morris to the warden. When Morris arrives at the warden's office, the warden tells him, "I know you're very sharp-minded and very intelligent. But what good is all that here? So many people like you have come and gone, but no one has ever escaped. Prisoners here follow very strict rules. You can only visit once every 2 months, and that too only if I'm in a good mood." The warden is a very strict man who punishes prisoners for even the slightest offense. The warden says, "Don't even think of escaping. Otherwise, you'll be torn to pieces." To which Morris replies, "No, sir, who could even think of escaping here with you around?" But in reality, Morris had been planning his escape from day one. Seeing an opportunity, Morris steals the warden's nail cutter, a seemingly insignificant item. But Morris knew that in a prison like Alcatraz, even such a small nail cutter could be used for significant purposes. Returning to his cell, Morris hides the nail cutter in a Bible. The next day, Wolf begins harassing Morris again in the bathroom. But this time, Morris is undeterred. Now, Morris reveals his true colors, catches him and gives him a thorough beating. After beating Wolf, Morris now has a special status in the prison. Everyone starts to fear him. Morris is then assigned to work in the library. There, he meets a man named English, a senior inmate. English, who was also sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder of 2 men, spent half his life in this prison. He knows every nook and cranny of the prison. He is aware of everything that happens in the prison. He even knows that Morris and Wolf had a fight that morning. He gives Morris some books, which Morris must deliver to each prisoner's cell. The next scene shows an open space where the prisoners are playing games. Then, he meets an artist named Doc, who is painting his own painting. Doc is a simple and decent man who has been serving his sentence here for many years. He was very fond of painting and spent most of his time doing it. Doc said that anyone could go mad in a prison like Alcatraz. But because of his painting, his mind is still functioning normally. Morris asks Doc why there's a flower in the painting. "There's nothing like that on your shirt." Doc says, "It's my happiness, which is only in the painting, not in my heart." Then, when Morris looks to his right, he sees English standing above him. Morris walks towards English. When Morris approaches him, his disciples stop him. English gestures, "He's one of our own, let him come." Morris sits down next to him and immediately pours out his heartfelt words. Morris asks him, "You'll help me escape from here?" English laughs at this. "Look, son, this isn't just a prison. It's the grave for all of us. If we want to get out of here, we'll have to die first. Only then will our dead bodies be able to reach the cemetery. Let's assume you climb these huge walls, and then... It's dangerous. You could even cross the lines and, with some magical power, evade the hundreds of guards and break out of prison. Even then, you won't be able to escape, because the sea will block your path. So, don't waste time and quietly serve your sentence. At least you'll survive. But Morris was determined. He wanted to escape from this prison at all costs. That night, an officer told Morris that he had been given carpentry work starting tomorrow. He would be paid 50 cents an hour. Morris immediately agreed to the job because he thought he might find a tool there that could help him escape. The next day, Morris asked Litmus for a way to escape. Litmus replied, "Oh, it's very easy. Every cell has an air vent. You can reach the roof through it. Maybe you can escape from there." He smiles at Morris's words and leaves. Doc then warns Morris that Wolf is coming for him. Just then, Wolf comes to stab Morris. Morris wraps his coat around his arm and starts fighting with him. A guard comes to stop him, and Wolf stabs him as well. Things escalate, and the watchtower guard starts shooting. Only then do Morris and Wolf stop fighting. Morris, unaware of the presence of a guard on the watchtower, begins to notice every detail of the prison. The guards take Morris and Wolf to D Block, where prisoners are kept in the dark and tortured overnight. This was a cell no prisoner wanted to go to. Before leaving, Wolf threatens Morris, saying, "Son, you will die at my hands." That night, Morris endures various tortures. Due to this, his condition deteriorates considerably. After 2 weeks in this dark cell, he is brought back to his cell. Litmus sends Morris a note through his pet rat, which reads, "Welcome back, Morris." One day, a new prisoner named Charlie arrives, who is placed in the cell next to Morris's. Morris and Charlie quickly become friends. Morris then introduces him to his other friends. At the same time, the warden, without informing anyone, checks each prisoner's cell. When he goes to Dog's cell, he finds several paintings by Dog. The warden is amazed that Dog's paintings are increasing day by day. Dog has even painted a painting of the warden. The warden smiles at the sight, but he doesn't know why. The next day, the warden orders the guards to throw out all the paintings made in Dog's cell. The warden's decision completely shattered Doug, who lived solely on his paintings. He loved every single one of his paintings, as his only joy here, and even that was taken away from him. Morris reassures him that it's okay, it was just a painting. He can make more. But Doug remains in shock. The next day, when he sees him, Morris tells the guard to please keep an eye on Doug. He looks very distressed, afraid he might harm himself. The guard then tells Morris to mind his own business. Doug is also assigned to work as a carpenter alongside Morris. Then, Doug secretly slips something into Morris's pocket. He then calls a guard and chops off 3 of his fingers with a carpentry axe, saying, "I don't need those fingers that I can't paint with." Saying this, he starts screaming. Then the guards grab him and take him away. Morris sees that Doug has put the same flower he used to paint his picture in his coat. Perhaps he wants to tell Morris that, "These people have taken away my happiness." Morris picks up Doug's severed fingers and puts them in a box. Seeing the guard, he says, "Go give it to your warden. He will be very happy to see it." The next day, Morris is sitting in his cell. He sees a cockroach going into the air vent, which gives him the idea that there must be a way out. Just then, English arrives and explains that Doug cut his own fingers because his permission to paint was revoked. That's why he got fed up and cut his fingers. Morris is very angry. The next day, in the dining hall, the warden asks Morris, "Why are you supporting Doug so much?" He says, "It's nothing like that." With that, Morris returns to his table and sits down. There, he meets 2 brothers, John and Clarence. Morris speaks to them as if he already knows them. John and Clarence were actually in Morris's gang in another prison. Escaping prison now seemed easier to John because these 2 brothers were as sharp-minded as Morris, and the 3 of them began planning their escape. In the afternoon, Charlie's girlfriend comes to visit him. Meanwhile, English's daughter has come to visit. English's eyes fill with tears upon seeing his daughter, as she had grown up considerably in his absence, and English deeply regretted not seeing her childhood. Meanwhile, Charlie's wife tells him that his mother is very ill, and the doctor says she won't live more than a month. Hearing this, Charlie also begins to consider escaping from Alcatraz, when a guard arrives and says, "Time for a talk." It's over. Now Charlie is very worried. That night, he tells Morris that if you plan to escape, include him. The next day, Morris, Charlie, John, and Clarence meet. Morris tells them that every cell's air vent opens onto the roof, and that this place is in the middle of a saltwater sea, which has weakened the walls. "I have a nail cutter and I've already started digging. If I dig a little at a time and make a small tunnel to the roof, then after examining this place, I'll know how to escape." John asks, "If the guards find out you're not in your cell at night, won't they get suspicious?" Clarence then reveals that he has the solution. He says, "I know a barber here who cuts the prisoner's hair. He can supply us with the hair, and using that, we can make a dummy head and lay it on the bed. Even if we escape through the tunnel in the wall and end up on the roof, the guards won't suspect anything because there will be fake heads on our cell beds." But the question still remains, we'll get out of prison, but how will we cross the ocean? Morris tells John, "Look, I'll need your help with this. You work in the clothing department. There, you'll find raincoats made for those police officers. So, steal some raincoats and give them to me. We can make a tugboat and life jackets from them and cross the ocean." Charlie says, "Brother, give me some work too. I want to help you guys." Morris tells Charlie to keep watch while he digs for the ventilation grill so that no guard sees us, and I'll keep watch while you dig. Everyone likes Morris's plan, and they start work that very night. However, the nail cutter was too small to dig into the wall. Morris had to use a lot of force to operate it, and he was having a hard time digging. He even got a small one in his hand, but he slowly started digging the hole. The next day, at the dinner table, he tells his friends that he needs a bigger tool to dig. It's too difficult to cut through the wall with a nail cutter. Then, looking at the spoon in his hand, an idea comes to his mind. He deliberately rubs the spoon on his shoe, dirtying it. Then, Morris calls the guard and says, "This spoon is dirty. Give me another one." The others also requested the guard to replace their spoons. The guard found nothing wrong and immediately allowed them to do so. He then proceeded straight to the table where another security guard was sitting. As he began to replace the spoons on the table, John distracted the guard. Taking advantage of this, Morris took 2 spoons instead of 1, hiding one in his pocket. He then went straight to his cell. That night, when English came to give him his book, Morris asked if he could find any welding equipment there. English understood that Morris was still obsessed with escaping from prison. He said, "I've already told you that your attempt will be futile because you'll get caught and possibly even lose your life. In all these years, I've never thought of running away because I know it's impossible. But if you're stubborn, what can I do? Try." But Morris doesn't care about his warnings. The next day, he asks Litmus for a matchbox and says, "If you help me, I'll give your mouse my share of food every day." Litmus happily agrees, because Litmus loved the mouse. That very night, Litmus offers Morris his matchbox. Morris removes a nail cutter handle, using it to make a small shovel. Then, he breaks a spoon and attaches it to the nail cutter handle. Then, using a match, he securely welds the two together, creating a sharp tool. Then, he starts digging around the vent. Charlie stands guard. If a guard came that way, he would immediately whistle to signal Morris. But while guarding, Charlie dozed off, and just then a guard appeared. Luckily, English interrupted the guard and distracted him. Charlie, listening to English's conversation, woke up as well. But due to the tension, he couldn't even whistle, and then dropped something. Morris, taking his cue, covered the vent and lay down on the bed. The guard asked, "I smell something burning here." Morris replied, "Sir, how dare anyone smoke around you? I can't smell anything." The guard felt relieved, thinking, "At least someone respects me." As soon as he left, Morris removed the concrete around the vent. But he noticed that screws had been driven into the ventilation grill, which would require a sharp tool to cut. During this time, whenever Morris got a chance to go outside, he would quietly dump the cement that had come out of the grill. The next day, while working as a carpenter, he picks up a piece of metal that's as sharp as a knife. But Charlie asks him, "How will you take it out without getting caught by the metal detector?" Morris confidently says, "I'll take care of it." When Morris goes outside, the metal detector starts ringing at the door. Indeed, Morris brought the metal in his hand. The guard asks why he's carrying it. Morris replies, "Sir, I thought I'd use it to hang clothes." The guard says, "Don't be smart and give it to me." The guard takes the metal from him and, after thoroughly checking Morris, lets him go. But a hero is a hero. He actually stole 2 metals. He brought one in his hand and hid the other in his shoes. He uses the sharp metal to cut the grill. Now it's time to make a fake head to fool the guards. For this, the 4 of them take on their own responsibility. Charlie asks the guard for some paint. He tells him that he loves to make art. The guard doesn't refuse, and he brings the paint. Morris grinds the concrete extracted from the hole into a powder. John collects hair from the barber shop, and Clarence collects old books from the library. With all the materials gathered, Morris begins creating a dummy head using water and old magazines. He applies paint and fake hair to create a completely realistic-looking head. To further strengthen his plan, Morris also creates fake cardboard pieces so no one can suspect a tunnel in the opposite wall. One night, Morris decides to go upstairs alone. He places his fake skull on the bed and covers it up to the neck with a blanket. He then climbs out of the tunnel with the fake cardboard. There, Morris slowly climbs up to the roof, holding onto the pipes. Charlie is standing guard outside. Upon reaching the roof, Morris sees an iron grill above, which he cannot reach even by jumping. Meanwhile, a guard arrives and asks Charlie, "Why are you painting so late at night? And why did your friend Morris go to bed so early today?" Charlie replies, "Yes, sir, Morris was tired from carpentry today, so he went to bed early." Suddenly, the guard's stick falls from his hand. Picking it up, he notices that Morris's hair looks very strange. Charlie begins to tremble with fear, thinking he's done for today. The guard reaches into Morris's cell and touches his hair. Morris asks, "What happened, sir? Is my hair so beautiful?" Luckily, Morris came down and lay down there in time. The next day, Morris tells his friends that there's a way to the roof, but it's blocked by a grill, and that grill is very high. "I need another friend's help." Then John says, "I've completely dug my vent. I'll be there tonight too." They'll open the grill together. That same night, Morris and John reach the roof through their vents. John lifts Morris, and Morris grabs the grill. John sees that the iron grill is very strong and completely welded. There's only one way to remove it, and that's to cut it with a drill. The next day, in music class, everyone is playing their favorite instrument. Just then, Morris notices a small fan kept there. Seeing it, Morris thinks he can work with it to make a drill machine. He tells Charlie to somehow hide the fan away. Charlie easily hides the small fan in his instrument box. When Charlie emerges, the guards check his instrument box. But they don't see the fan, and Charlie is let go. As soon as Morris finds the fan, he begins working on it. After several hours, he fashions a drill from it. That night, Morris and Charlie climb onto the roof and begin cutting the iron rod with the drill. The drill's noise was so loud that the guards, hearing the sound, rush up. But by then, Morris has cut a rod in the grill, and the drilling noise stops. After the drilling stops, the guard ignores him and goes back. Now, these 4 have opened all their escape routes. They were about to escape from Alcatraz, the world's most secure prison, from which no one has ever escaped. The next day, they have another meeting, in a movie hall where everyone is watching a movie. Amid the sound of the movie, Morris asks John and Clarence if their vent is ready and what happened to the raincoats they were going to make into tubes and life jackets. They say everything is ready. Even their dummy heads are ready. It's just a matter of escape. The next morning, during breakfast, Morris places the flour Doug gave them on the table. When the warden sees the pool, he comes to their table and crushes it. This enrages Litmus, who was Doug's favorite flower and was already dead. Litmus angrily attacks him, saying, "You killed Doug, and you're not leaving even a small memento he gave you." But as he attacks the warden, he suddenly suffers a heart attack and collapses. Morris becomes furious with the warden, and the 4 decide to escape that very night. Morris waits for midnight so that the guards can slacken, allowing them to escape easily. Just then, in Morris's cell, English gives him some books. Morris says, "One last time. I want to shake your hand." English understands that Morris has made a solid plan to escape from here. He quietly leaves. But what happens next is something Morris hadn't imagined at all. The warden suddenly comes to check his cell. It's as if someone has told him about his plan. Morris becomes extremely nervous because after so many months of hard work, all his efforts are about to go to waste. The warden orders every corner of Morris's cell checked. The guards check every single thing in Morris's cell. But Morris wasn't an ordinary prisoner who had made a small plan. Rather, he had made a very clear and perfect plan, one that not only the warden, but even the warden's grandfather, could not have detected. Even when the guards removed the suitcase from the exact spot where Morris had tunneled his escape route, Morris was not caught because he had already made a fake cardboard cover and fitted it precisely to the wall. Finding nothing, the warden and guards leave. But the guards explain that Morris and Charlie talk all night. "I suspect something fishy." The warden says, "Okay, tomorrow you change Morris's cell so they can't be together or talk." The next day, during breakfast, Wolf threatens Morris again, telling him that tonight will be his last night. Morris tells his companions, "That idiot is right. Tonight will be my last night here." But in the afternoon, Wolf goes to stab Morris. Just then, English intervenes and catches Wolf. In fact, English also wants to help Morris. Whether he succeeds or not, English wants to help Morris. That night, Morris, John, Clarence, and Charlie decide to escape through their respective vents and meet on the roof. Charlie agrees to escape with his companions, but as soon as he reaches his cell, he begins to panic. Sitting alone in his cell, he decides not to participate in the plan, while his three remaining companions escape through their respective vents and reach the roof. The three wait for Charlie for a long time. But after a considerable time, when they realize that Charlie won't return, they decide to leave Charlie and escape. The three proceed with their plan. But Charlie's dream of freedom is fading away before his eyes. The three slowly escape, hiding from the searchlight. In this way, they reach the end of the building. Just then, Charlie, sitting in his cell, feels inspired and decides to escape. He escapes through his vent and reaches the roof. But it's too late, as he can't reach the door alone. Fear has cost him his chance at freedom. The three of them, on the other hand, hang from a pipe on the roof and reach the prison's final wall, avoiding the eyes of the security guard in the tower. Then, one by one, they climb the fence and escape. They run quickly to the seashore. They remove their raincoats and begin blowing air into them through their mouths. It's taking them a long time, but they have no other option. So, with all their might, the three finally inflate a tube boat made from a raincoat and launch it into the water. Thus, they escape, tarnishing Alcatraz's reputation. The next morning, a guard is checking each cell. Initially, everything appears normal to the guard. But when he reaches Charlie, he stands in his cell like a ghost, secretly taunting himself. If only he had mustered a little courage last night, he might have escaped with the others. The guard asks, "Why is your friend sleeping so late?" He goes to Morris's cell and calls out to him. But when Morris doesn't respond, the guard becomes enraged and opens the cell and tries to wake him up by the hair. But when the guard pulls it up hard, the head falls off. The guard is shocked to see Morris no longer confined to his cell, but enjoying the outside world. He had left his dummy head on the bed. Sirens begin blaring throughout Alcatraz. Word spreads throughout the prison that some prisoners have escaped. The warden then begins searching for the three prisoners in every corner of the prison. When they are not found inside, he launches a search operation in the ocean. The warden is incredulous that the three have escaped. He thinks they must have died in the water. But deep inside, the warden knows that they were very strong. Having crossed the ocean, they must now be breathing the air of freedom. The officers at headquarters are asking the warden question after question. "Were you sleeping when those three escaped?" The warden is very tense. But then he finds Dog's favorite flower. This means that Morris wanted to take revenge on the warden for Dog. Then the head of the search team comes and tells him, "Sir, every search has been done, but their bodies..."